Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class, and we are continuing it on with our Find Peace Through Painting video series. And this video series is really all about how our act of painting, even just watercolor painting as we're making our cards, can really help us find peace. It can be a part of our hobby that we can look forward to each and every day. I love to have a lot of images just stamped and ready to go, ready for paint. And then if I have a spare minute in the day, I can reach for those and just go ahead and paint them in. Even if it means I only get one flower painted or one die cut butterfly, it is just fun to have this part of our hobby really available and something like a peaceful practice we can return to again and again. Now the colors that we're using are part of Penny Black's liquid watercolor set, and there are 35 vibrant colors included in this set. And through each video in this series, we've been sort of working through each color family to get a nice look at each color, how it can be used, and just so you can get the most out of these colors. So today we are focused on purples. So we've got our grape and heather, and then I always like to pull in the magenta and the indigo. When I'm thinking of purples, those colors come along for the ride. So you can see here on my sheet, grape and heather down in the purples, but I have pulled in that indigo from sort of the blues family and the magenta down from the pinks family. And this is just how my mind thinks about color, so if yours doesn't, just feel free to ignore me. Now, if you want to know more here about my swatch sheet and how I've created my palette and just the very basics, the information about our inks, so sorry by the way that I'm off camera, there we go. Be sure to check out our intro video to these new inks, and I will link that for you down in the YouTube description box below. So I'm just showing here, I love to pair up heather and magenta and grape and indigo. You don't have to, but I really feel like they just add so much to purples, which can sometimes to me be sort of a sad, depressing color, but adding those others in really make them fun to work with. So there's heather and grape, and then up here in the pinks is magenta, and indigo's right next door with the blues. So I'm going to be painting with our Penny Black brush set today. And let me give you a look at each of these colors. So the first here is heather, a very light, soft purple. So again, it's nice to have a lights and soft versions of colors. It makes it very easy to do backgrounds, to add just a little touch of shading. But I also like to have a darker version. So that's kind of what you're seeing here with heather and grape. Just that like purple, but not too neon or anything like that. So now I like to pull in some life to these. So I love when you put heather and magenta together. So I'm just putting them here so that you can see them, and we're going to paint our flowers with that combination as well. You don't have to mix them. You can use them as a single color selection. And I did show that in the pinks video, and there was another video where I showed just single color selection, and I'll link those for you down below. And then here is that indigo color. So that magenta and the indigo are kind of going to be our zingers, our brighteners, and it's the pairing of a sort of more muted color and a bright color to what I really think can bring colors to life and make them work for you. And I love that this palette of colors really has that for you. So those are sort of what I think of when I'm thinking of purples, and I'm going to paint something purple. Here I've painted some die cuts with them just single color selections and done some blending, which is another thing you can do just to test out your colors. Now I wanted to show you a little technique here. This is our vanilla color. It's this really light, soft color. So remember I said those soft colors come in handy? You could do this with the heather color even. Those really light or ballet slipper for a pink background. This is just more of a neutral, and so I'm going to paint this vanilla around the image. So I've stamped this image. This is from from our Floral Vines set, and I stamped it onto Canson 140-pound watercolor paper using Memento Toffee Crunch ink. That's just going to give me an outline there, but it isn't too bold, so I'll get sort of a no-line look when I paint with it. But you can certainly just stamp these in black too. That's easier, especially if you're just beginning. And I just painted that vanilla around the image, and I'm even picking it up on my paintbrush and splattering it onto the background as well. If you know you want a background painted like this with a real light color, if you think of it, I try to, but I don't always. It's nice to do it before you paint the flowers, because if you go over into the petal a little bit, it's really no big deal if you do it first. So just a little tip there. Use those really light colors to do some backgrounds or around your image, and it'll make it pop. It'll look so painterly and watercolor-esque. Do a few splatters and then go in and paint your flowers or whatever you're painting. So here I'm going to paint this flower. I'm going to put sort of like a base coat on the entire flower. So I'm just painting that on. Now the background, I have dried that with my heat gun, so the background is dry. Don't be afraid if you leave a little white at the tips of the petal or around the petal. That's totally okay. And this one I'm using heather and magenta, so the lightest purple. While it's still wet now, I've picked up that magenta color and I'm putting it where I want it to be darkest. And I'm just going to let those colors sort of mix together right there on the petal. And I went ahead and rinsed off my brush and patted it dry, and then I just went back and blended that with just the littlest bit of water on my brush. I'm going to do the same thing here over on this petal. And I just think that is such a happy little look when you combine those two colors together. I'm going to do the same thing over here where I want it to be darkest now. I'm just putting a little bit of that magenta. That's right off the palette. Then I rinsed off my brush, patted it dry, and just went back and blended it out into that purple or that heather color. Then I will go ahead and dry those because the next petal has two right adjacent to it, so I don't want them to all start mixing and blending together. So I just dried that before I do this petal here, and I'll put just a little bit of that magenta towards the middle. Again, don't be afraid to leave a little bit of white on the tips of your petals. It helps when they're layered over each other for that top one to have some white out there on the tip, and it can just add some life to it. Now you can always start light, and then that's what I did, and I went back and thought I think I want that magenta even darker, so I went back and just added another layer following that same process as I did before, and it just darkened it up. So within one or two colors you can also have a range depending on the concentration that you add or more than one layer. Now let's go ahead and do that other combo. Let's do the grape and the indigo. So I'm going to put down the grape here. I'm putting it where it's concentrated right from the palette where I want it to be darkest. Rinsed off my brush, patted it dry, and went back and blended it. You could certainly just stop right there and do the entire flower like that, and you'd have this really sort of muted, soft purple flower, which is really beautiful. But I just wanted to show you how you can sort of take it up the next level if you want to, or if you want it just to have a little bit more of a zing to it. So here I'm just finishing with that sort of base layer with the grape. I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to reach to the indigo and just put that again where I want it to be darkest. That's coming right off the palette, rinsing off my brush and patting it dry when I go back to blend those. Just working a couple of petals at a time, and you can see how nicely those two colors, they're BFFs, I think. Now you could also just do the indigo. You could do, this is a fun stamp if you wanted to test out lots of different colors. You could do these flowers in all different colors. I think that would be really pretty as well. And if you look at mine, like if you look right up there at the top, the ones I already did, look how there's white left on there. Look how they don't all perfectly go out to the edges. That adds life to the design. So don't worry about things being perfect with watercolor. And I think that's one of the reasons it can be kind of a peaceful medium to use, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. The more imperfect it is, the more beautiful it gets. For the centers of these flowers, I'm just doing a little bit in the color of Sunshine, and then the darker color that I come in with is Zinnia. So I'm going to just go ahead and dry that. And then we will move on here to the leaves. I just wanted to show you how I did those. This is the color Treetop. And I'm going to, again, put that right off the palette, most concentrated where I want it the darkest, rinse off my brush, pat it dry, and go back to blend that. And then I wanted to just, again, that's kind of a bright zinger color. So I'm going to pull in a little bit of pine and just add a touch of that with that color. Down where I want it to be the darkest, I just put it right on top while it was still wet. Now, wet is, I haven't dried it yet, but it's not like puddly wet. It's just a little bit wet. Don't be afraid to use less water. If you're having trouble with watercolor, for me, it's usually because I need less water and more control. And here I've just grabbed the chocolate color to go ahead and just paint in these vines using the beautiful tips of these penny black paintbrushes, because it makes it really easy to get those fine details. To finish things off, I also painted some butterflies, so paint your die cuts, that's a great way to practice, and stamp my sentiment, and the card is complete. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I appreciate so much all the wonderful and kind comments you've been leaving on all of these painting videos, and I hope that you are finding some peace with painting. We'll see you in the next video. Happy stamping!